Perfect. Sade, thank you. Good evening, everyone. This is Chairman Taylor. We're calling the beer board meeting to order. First order of business to verify that we do in fact have a quorum. I'm going to call roll for those board members that are here. I'm going to call your name. Please let me know. Ms. Jarman.
I'm here.
Good, thank you. Turn this up so I can hear. Mr. Bellamy.
Here.
Mr. Conway.
Here.
Mr. Perlin.
Here.
Ms. Spalding.
Here.
Ms. Fox. Including myself, we have 6 in attendance. We do have a quorum. Director McDonough, if you will let me know in the event Ms. Fox logs on.
Yes, sir.
I might not be looking for it. That would be appreciated. Next, for a moment, I will turn it over to the legal counsel, Mr. Garth, to once again remind us why and how we are able to perform today's meeting through this medium. Mr. Garth.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This meeting is permitted to be held in an electronic format under the Governor's Executive Order 16 as continued in its current iteration under Executive Order 78, so long as the board determines that the business conducted by the board is essential business. As such, I would recommend that a motion be made that the business before the board is essential business, that the board chooses to meet in an electronic format, and that all board rules or regulations to the contrary be waived.
Very well, thank you. To the board, you heard Mr. Garth. I'll entertain a motion to do so, to approve the meeting today via this medium.
It's Chris Bellamy, so moved.
Second, Will Conway.
Motion and I have a second. Any discussion? As I call your name, I'll entertain your vote. Ms. Jarman.
Yay.
Mr. Chairman, it looks like Ms. Fox just joined as well, just to let you know.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Bellamy, the motion to approve today's meeting via this conference.
Yay.
Thank you. Mr. Conway.
Yay.
Mr. Perlin.
Yay.
Ms. Spalding.
Yay.
And Ms. Fox, have you joined us? Yes.
Yes. So yay.
So, yeah, yes. Very good. Thank you. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes from the previous meeting. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Joe Perlin, so moved.
Thank you, Mr. Perlin. I have a motion. Can I get a second?
Chris Bellamy, second.
Thank you. Any discussion? I'm on the minutes. Hearing none, as I call your name, I'll hear your vote of yay or nay. Ms. Jarman.
Yay.
Mr. Bellamy.
Yay.
Mr. Conway.
Yay.
Mr. Perlin.
Yay.
Ms. Spalding.
Yay.
Ms. Fox.
Yay.
All in favor, no opposed. Motion passes. The minutes are approved. Next, I'll read a memo regarding appeals. If you are not satisfied with the decision of the Metropolitan Beer Permit Board regarding your application or your hearing, you may appeal the decision to the Davidson County Chancery or Circuit Court pursuant to the requirements set forth in TCA 57-5-108. The decisions of the Metropolitan Beer Permit Board take effect on a date to be determined by the board. However, you may file an appeal within 60 days of the date of entry of the board's decision. We advise that you seek your own independent legal advice to ensure that your appeal is filed in a timely manner and that all procedural requirements have been met. The following applications appear to be in order, and staff has recommended approval. Number 3, Christine Hauser, Jolton Hardware and Feed. Number 4, Different Class LLC, the Rosemary and Beauty Queen. 5, Different Class LLC, the Rosemary and Beauty Queen, that's a caterer. Number 6, Gallatin Pike Shell LLC, Gallatin Pike Shell. Number 7, the National Museum of African American Music, the National Museum of African American Music. Number 8, F&M Walton Leasing LLC, Grand Hyatt Nashville. 9, Jane's Entertainment Group LLC, Jane's Hideaway. 10, Eddie V's Holdings LLC, Eddie V's number 8529. 11, Zion's Brewing Company LLC, Zion's Brewing Company. Number 12, Zion's Brewing Company LLC, Zion's Brewing Company, that's a manufacturer. 13, Nashville Dolphins, Nashville Dolphins, that's a special event. I'll entertain a motion to approve or to grant those permits.
It's Chris Bellamy, so moved.
Joe Perlin, second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, as I call your name, I'll entertain a vote on the motion. Ms. Jarman,
Yay.
Mr. Bellamy,
Yay.
Mr. Conway,
Yay.
Mr. Perlin,
Yay.
Ms. Spalding,
Yay.
Ms. Fox.
Yay.
All in favor, no opposed, motion passes, those permits are granted. The staff is most likely going to email those permits out to those new permit holders where they are to be displayed prominently by rule and law in your establishment. The following applications, based on staff recommendation, shall be indefinitely deferred should the board so see fit. Keeping in mind that if you are one of these, staff does have the authority to issue temp permits when they have received all the required documents and are satisfied with those. Number 14, Daisy Mart. Daisy Mart. Number 15, 7-Eleven Inc. 7-Eleven, number 41042H as in Henry. 16, 7-Eleven Inc. 7-Eleven, number 41043H as in Henry. 17, Corner Asian Inc., Corner Asian Cafe. 18, 7-Eleven Inc., 7-Eleven, number 41051H as in Henry. 19, Nine Tail LLC, Babo. 20, Walker Brothers Beverage Co., Walker Brothers Beverage Co. 21, 7-Eleven Inc., 7-Eleven, number 41080H as in Henry. 22, Holistic Connections, Holistic Connections. 23, Vanderbilt University, the Vanderbilt University Baseball and Football Concessions. 24, R-Bar LLC, R-Bar Catering. 25, R-Bar LLC, R-Bar Catering, that's the caterer permit. 26, 7-Eleven Inc., 7-Eleven, number 41052H as in Henry. 27, 7-Eleven Inc., 7-Eleven, number 41053H as in Henry. 28, Slim and Huskies, 5th and Broadway, LLC, Slim and Huskies, 5th and Broadway. 29, Nashville Zoo, Nashville Zoo Spring Flamingo. 30, Sosa Gayton Enterprises, Inc., Sosa Gayton. 31, Baker Boss Company, Baker Boss. 32, Harpeth Valley Golf, Harpeth Valley Golf Center. Staff recommendation is for indefinite deferral of those I just read. I'll entertain a motion to do so.
So moved, Paul Conway.
Joe Perlin, second.
I have a motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain your vote, yay or nay. In favor or opposed to the motion. Ms. Jarman,
Yay.
Mr. Bellamy,
Yay.
Mr. Conway,
Yay.
Mr. Perlin,
Yay.
Ms. Spalding,
Yay.
Ms. Fox.
Yay.
All yays, no nays, motion passes. On the agenda this evening, first up, we have a discussion, number 33, Punjab Inc., Quick Sack number 625. The board had previously on the 11th voted and passed a 30-day suspension along with a 180-day probation to the director. If you will give us some discussion as to why this particular permit holder 13 days later is back on our agenda on a motion that we passed 2 weeks ago.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just Briefly, as you recall, the board did assess a 30-day suspension at the previous meeting on March the 11th. In subsequent conversations with the beer board team, we discussed the fact that due to the number of, I guess, underage beer enforcement activity that we are taking on at this time, we're checking about 1,500 to 2,000 businesses every year. That we're going to see probably an uptick now in the number of people who have multiple violations. And so we saw this as an opportunity, instead of just suspending them outright at this moment, to take a proactive approach and try to work with some of these businesses, which are actually few and far between. We have very few that are repeat offenders, and tried to get to the bottom of the issues that they're having with selling to minors. And so what we're bringing to the board tonight is the option to reconsider this matter, and to basically set a civil penalty instead, and then also have them provide a corrective action plan along with the understanding that we will be checking them on a monthly basis, and then just let the board members discuss that and decide how they would like to move forward on this, or if you would like to disregard it altogether and just to implement the 30-day suspension instead.
Okay, so that I understand what you just said, so it's clear to the board and for those listening, is that the staff is asking the board to consider a motion to reconsider, so that staff can then implement training, or in lieu of a suspension for 30 days, a civil penalty option with mandatory training and a program that you're installing that includes or that consists of no less than at least a monthly underage sting at this location.
Correct.
Did I miss anything?
No, I believe you covered it all.
Okay. So to the board, I'll open up for if anyone has a question, but as you just heard, the director is asking the board, and again, it is completely up to the board to take this under consideration or under discussion or a vote to reconsider, or we don't necessarily have to, but the director and staff are, asking us to reconsider. So to the board, are there any questions from the board to the director?
Joe Perlin here. How many violations have they had?
I believe what they had just recently was their 4th violation. And what we would like to do is at a time when a location gets their 3rd violation, that we put in place this sort of program where they have to come up with a corrective action plan, and they understand that we will be checking them on a monthly basis. And then at that point, if they get caught selling again within a certain time period, maybe 6 months or however long the board decides, then at that point the suspension would go in place when the board decides to.
Would it be the same suspension though after they've had all their training, or can we make it longer, shorter, or does it have to be 30 days? Can it be 15? Can it be 45?
That's really up to the board to make that decision.
Just curious.
Yeah. And a lot of this came about because of our memory in dealing with I believe it was Paul's Market that we dealt with a year or two ago, and I think we had initially suggested a revocation in that case, but the board decided instead to do a 6-month suspension. And really, we wound up working a lot with the individuals in the neighborhood to really try to address some of the issues at that particular location. So I think we're trying to take a more proactive approach in this way to try and address the issue before it gets to the point where it is right now.
I'm always excited about an opportunity for us to educate our licensees, or also set a model for those who want to be licensed. And so I appreciate this opportunity for us to do some additional education. We want to see businesses stay in business. We want to see people employed and remain employed. So I appreciate the staff for presenting this for consideration.
Thank you.
This is Chris Bellamy, if I may.
Yes, sir.
I think it's a great idea. I think that's a really nice, juicy carrot that the team is asking to present to them, and I'm 100% on board, and I agree with Keita or Ms. Drummond 100%. My only pushback is if we're going to give that big juicy carrot, we also got to have a stick. And what I don't want is for the same group to be before us again and fighting an additional charge, or because it didn't completed, now we're back having to adjudicate this again. So my suggestion would be give them that carrot, but also they go ahead and plead to, if they fail, whatever suspension or corrective action the board suggests, they plead to that. They accept that as their fate if they don't do what they're supposed to per your guidance. That's my pushback.
Appreciate that.
Are there any other comments? Ask it.
Yes, this is
Oh, sorry.
Delphine Fox. Okay, sorry.
Ms. Fox, go ahead.
Okay, Director, so just so I'm clear, did you mention that this would not be in place until they got a third offense? Is that what I heard?
We've been going back and forth on that. If we want to do it when they get their second offense, or if we want them to have a plan in place on their third offense. And we're obviously flexible with that. I'm just thinking of the suspension, the length of suspension that you put in place for each violation, where you have the civil penalty versus the suspension. So I'm just thinking about how that lines up with how we've been assessing the civil penalties, or the option of the suspension if the business prefers to go that route.
Right, okay, so, my take on that was to make sure we put an end to what is happening, these offenses, to put an education training in place to where it doesn't get there, right?
Exactly.
So could it be, as you said, proactive, to where when they are getting their license for the business, when they are applying and they are moving forward, that there is an educational part where, that they can have access to, that this knowledge is already in place, that they know this.
Right, and that's actually something that we've been discussing. This actual situation just presented itself. It was a very rare, severe case where you have four sales within a short period of time, and so we felt like we needed to address this. But we have been discussing the idea of having classes that we provide to to new applicants, and it's something that we can't require for those individuals that have a TABC license, but we can require it for anyone else, actually on an annual basis. If the board decided to go that route, we'd have to go. I believe we'd have to go through council to do that. But right now we offer training and classes like that as an option if someone is interested in that.
Okay,
We haven't really formally rolled anything out at this point, though, however.
okay, thank you.
Have they turned in their beer permit yet?
They had until last Friday to do so, and then at that point, or it was either last Thursday or last Friday, we told them to hold off on that until we brought this before the board to make that to let you all discuss it and make that determination.
Are there any other questions? If they're not, I'll entertain a motion or not to reconsider Quick Act number 625.
I'll make a motion to reconsider. Joe Perlin.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, I missed. They're kind of cutting out. Mr. Arman, was that you for that second?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. I have a motion, a second. Any additional discussion? The only discussion I would have, and before we do vote on that, I would like the director's comment on it is when we don't generally reconsider penalties that we hand down, particularly not, we have in the past, but generally it's happened in my 10 or 11 year tenure here. It's happened 2-3 times at most, and generally on the same board meeting if something comes up during that meeting that merits reconsideration of a prior decision. In this case, it's almost 2 weeks later. So I guess let me ask you to address any concerns about that, because as you and I are going back and forth constantly about precedent and what that potentially means or not, does this open the door? And this is part of my concern with this is, does it open the door for reconsideration for anyone that has a similar situation?
No, and that's a really good question. That's something that I did address with legal prior to moving forward on this, in that the rules that we have in place do not allow the board to reconsider based upon a permit holder requesting the reconsideration. It's only if the staff or if a board member would like to have an issue reconsidered that previously came before the board. And this is a rare occurrence, and I definitely agree with you on that. I don't even know if we've reconsidered maybe one time in the time that I've been executive director, I think. But in this particular situation, I thought it may be appropriate because I felt like it would be beneficial not only to the board but also to the industry to show that now that we are conducting more inspections or more beer stings, based upon that, you're going to see an uptick in the number of beer buys or beer sales to underage informants, because we used to do about 100 to 200 a year, and now we're doing about 1,500 to 2,000 a year. So you're going to see more repeat offenders in this case. But I think it's an opportunity for us to really reach out to not only to the public but also to the industry and try to address these rare issues that we have with the problem cases.
Okay. Very well. All right, to the board, are there any other questions? I have a motion, I have a second. Any other discussion, questions, comments on the motion to reconsider? All right, hearing none. When I call your name, I'll entertain your vote on the motion to reconsider. Ms. Jarman?
Yay.
Mr. Bellamy?
Yay.
Mr. Conway?
I'm going to abstain from this because I wasn't here for that trial and don't know anything about it.
All right. Mr. Perlin,
Yay.
Ms. Spalding,
Yay.
Ms. Fox.
Yay.
Very well, motion passes. Motion to reconsider has passed. So at this point, Director, I'm gonna ask you to chime in real quick on, now that we have reconsidered this, the penalty for this permit holder is back on the table. What is your recommendation for the civil penalty or suspension probation option?
I think in this particular matter, what we have discussed, and I know the board doesn't typically like to assess multiple civil penalties for sales within the same operation. But on this particular day, when they received their fourth sale, they actually sold twice during that time that we were there. And I know that the board in its previous discussions had stated that obviously civil penalties were not changing the behavior of this particular permit holder. But I think if the board assessed $2,500 for both of those sales, you could do a $5,000 civil penalty. And also the understanding that we'll be checking every month over the next 6 months, and maybe look at putting them on probation for a year at that point as well.
Okay, is there any
And also the requirement that, they provide a corrective action plan and also receive training from the beer board staff.
This is Bailey Spalding. I have a question. What would be the difference between that 6 months and the year probation? So I guess it's what is the, if we're checking once a month every 6 months and they're fine, but then, have a violation during, the second half during that probation period, what happens? What is the difference?
I think it would be the same thing. I mean, I think the first 6 months, or we could do it over a year where we check them every month if you preferred that. But just, it would be that we would be checking on at least a monthly basis.
Gotcha. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.
my opinion of this, and you alluded to it, Director, is, and I've always been a proponent of not double dipping for the same instance. For example, when the staff was in there checking and doing the stings, they sold twice while you were there. That could have been either an employee that was having a bad night, an employee who didn't care, an employee who wasn't doing his job correctly. But it's one employee potentially, or it's one instance, in my opinion. I don't know that I agree with a $5,000 penalty on two sales to minors that happened at the same time. To me, it's kind of a similar situation to having two minors sitting at a table and someone serving both of them a drink. To me, that's one instance, because it's one event at one evening. But again, I'm just one, and I don't vote unless I have to break a tie. So.
And we were just suggesting the 5,000 from the standpoint that, the idea of the civil penalty is to try and impact the behavior that's taking place. And so the previous assessment of I believe it was $2,500 in previous situations, obviously was not impacting that particular behavior. And so it's setting precedent from the standpoint of, the next time we have someone that comes up with this many sales, then the board may have to look at their precedent there. But I don't think it affects as far as what the board has done in previous cases where they assess it as one event.
Okay. We'll agree to disagree slightly, but that's okay.
I appreciate the opportunity.
Sure, absolutely. To the board, any other questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion on a newly reconsidered penalty for this matter.
This Joe Perlin, kind of in what you've been thinking. They just had some bad luck, couple hours bad luck. I mean, I make a motion, $2,500 civil penalty.
I think for that to be some clarity, Mr. Perlin, I think there does need to be some, I'm not
Yeah.
overruling your motion. I think there needs to be an option
Oh yeah,
and
I'm
a
sorry.
probationary period.
I'm sorry. Worked all day today. $2,500 civil penalty. 2 week, and let's go 180 days probation. Can I go that long?
You can go, absolutely you can.
Okay.
So you're not offering a suspension option.
1 month. I'll throw the month back at it.
All right, so let me restate that so that everyone listening can understand. He's offered a $2,500 civil penalty or the option to serve a 30-day suspension followed by a 180-day probation.
Yes, sir.
And this is Bailey Spalding. And just to clarify, that probation period includes a kind of the educational piece or the corrective plan.
Yes, ma'am.
And I think it absolutely does, because that's the only reason I believe
We're bringing
that
it
was the
back.
reasoning behind the reconsideration.
Yeah, I wanted to make it clear in the motion. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you. I have a motion for a $2,500 civil penalty, 30, or the option to serve a 30-day suspension, or and 180-day probationary period. Either way. Do I have a second?
I'll second it so we can have discussion, because it sounds like we might need to have discussion if nobody is seconding it.
All right, I have a second. Now, any discussion on that?
Yeah, this is Chris Bellamy. Again, I kind of go back to my other point. Where's the stick? I mean, we basically said, and looking at the record and what they've done, sure, they had a lot of bad luck because they got small, but clearly none of the prior instances where we sent someone in and they violated the law, that they correct the behavior. I mean, March 19, November 20, January 21, February 21, they get the penalty, they pay the penalty, they just absorb it and said it's the cost of doing business, and it's worth it for us to continue the behavior. I'm all for taking this approach of educating or re-educating or continually educating. But if they just say, all right, $2,500, we're going to absorb that. We paid that before, no big deal. Where does that leave us? That's my issue. Thank you.
Sure. Ms. Bellamy, I would offer the idea that if you feel differently, you're welcome to offer an amendment to the motion. Or maybe just discuss what you think it should be, and we can go from there.
Yeah, I'll just put it back to the floor for further discussion if anyone has a different point.
Well,
All right.
I have a different point. I just will kind of double click into your point, or provide an answer. It may not be the answer. What eventually happened which of course could be dangerous between now and then. But what eventually happens is they put themselves out of the beer business because we revoke or suspend their license permanently or for some amount of time. So I will say that is in place for us to do at some point. But I do agree that there needs to be to make doing business this way expensive, because it's harmful if it was actually not a sting, but a young person who goes out and kills someone in the car after drinking and driving or something like that. So I agree with that point.
All right, so again, the motion I have is $2,500 civil penalty, 30-day probation, 30-day suspension, 180-day probation. Any other discussion? If not, we're going to vote on that motion.
This is Bailey Spalding. I wonder if we can add to the motion something about Chris's point about, again, if you, and maybe that's implicit in the probationary period, but implicit being that you, if you fail, if we do come and you fail, then you automatically get your license suspended for 30 days.
And my two cents for that would be that if they fail, they will be in front of us again, and then we can take all their previous violations to this degree in whatever penalty we issue a next time. Should there be a next time?
Sure.
Director, I'm happy for your feedback there. If you disagree or have some more thoughts about it.
No, I believe everyone's made some very strong arguments. I think just going along with what Mr. Bellamy said is that I think the probationary period and the corrective action plan and 30-day suspension is a really good start. Like you said, we'll agree to disagree on the civil penalty, because I think the board has the option to assess up to $2,500 for each violation, and I think in this particular case, as Ms. Jarman pointed out, you want to make it an expensive endeavor. Excuse me, when you're violating something like this, such as selling to a minor. So I would just press our point that I think $5,000 would be the appropriate level in this case if you all were to reconsider that.
Mr. Chair,
Sorry?
this is Chris Bellamy again. I think you said
Yes, sir.
I could offer an amendment to that motion. Is that right?
Yes, sir. You may.
I would like to offer the amendment that we increase that civil penalty to the $5,000, which would be $2,500 per sale to a minor, because of the nature of this particular incident and the prior behavior.
So is your amendment only for the dollar civil penalty, not
And
the suspension or probation period?
And we keep the only amendment to the motion is for the dollar amount. Everything else will remain the same.
Okay, fair enough. Do I have a second to the amendment?
I'm going to second that. This is Fox.
Thank you, Ms. Fox. Any discussion on the amendment to amend to $5,000 civil penalty? Okay, so we're going to vote on the amendment, and then we're going to vote on the order or the penalty. So this is only on the amendment to amend the original motion for a civil penalty of $5,000, which also comes with a 30-day. The amendment is just to amend the original motion from $2,500 to $5,000. Entertain your vote on the motion as I call your name, Ms. Jarman.
Yay.
Mr. Bellamy.
Yay.
Mr. Conway.
Abstain.
Mr. Perlin.
Yay.
Ms. Spalding.
Yay.
Ms. Fox.
Yay.
Very well, thank you. Motion passes. The new penalty to consider to vote on is now $5,000 civil penalty or the option to serve a 30-day probation, a 30-day suspension, followed by 180-day probation. That is now the motion to vote on. Any discussion on that? Hearing none, I'll entertain your vote on that as I call your name. Ms. Jarman,
Yay.
Mr. Bellamy,
Yay.
Mr. Conway is abstaining. Mr. Perlin,
Yay.
Ms. Spalding,
Yay.
Ms. Fox.
Yay.
5 yeas, no nays, motion passes. Okay, so for number 33 on the evening's agenda, quick sack number 625. We have voted to reconsider a previous penalty. The new penalty that we have applied to the most recent violation is a $5,000 civil penalty, or the permit holder has the option to serve a 30-day suspension followed by 180-day probation. It is further understood to, which was the, I believe anyway, further understood during the motion to reconsider that staff will be doing monthly, at least for the next 6 months, monthly underage sting inspections at this location. Director, have I misstated anything?
No, sir. No, sir.
Very well. All right, on to the next item on the evening's agenda. Number 34, Nashville Palace Partners LLC, the Nashville Palace. Who will be speaking? I have on my agenda, Mr. Brown. Is Mr. Brown with us this evening? Director, is Mr. Brown calling in? If so, his number would need to be unmuted.
He is on call. He is number, let me see.
And as well as Mr. Hobbs.
I think he's caller number 13 on here. Let me see. Yes, he's caller number 13, and then Mr. Hobbs is on there as well. There we go.
Sade, Mr. Brown or Mr. Hobbs? Mr. Hobbs. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Did Mr. Brown hear me?
Melvin Brown, I hear you.
All right. All right. I'm getting an echo. Is anybody else getting that?
I'm hearing it as well.
Me too. Me too.
This is going to be interesting, folks. Okay, so number 34, the Nashville Palace. Mr. Hobbs.
Chairman Taylor,
Yes, sir.
before we go down the path, I think I've got an error in which company I was prepared to speak for tonight. I was under the assumption that we paid the civil penalty for the Nashville Palace. I didn't get any emails subpoenaing me for the Palace. There was a mix-up with Terrence and myself on the email files back originally on these two cases. And one document didn't load because the EOL was so large. So maybe I skipped the fine, but I wasn't going to challenge the Nashville Palace. But if it's too late and I need to do battle here, we'll figure out what it is. But I don't even know what I'm charged with.
So, Director, are you okay if we do this? Obviously, the board needs to vote on this. How about we defer number 34, Nashville Palace, so that Mr. Hobbs can communicate with staff to satisfy any previous citation issued so that he may pay that if he hasn't already. Any issues, Director?
That'll be fine. We can do that.
Okay, so to the board, if there are no questions, I'll entertain a motion to defer this one meeting.
Chris Bellamy, so moved.
Will Conway, second.
Any discussion? All right. For Mr. Hobbs, I appreciate you chiming in there. So motion on deferral, Ms. Jarman, yay or nay?
Yay.
Mr. Bellamy? Mr. Conway?
Yay.
Mr. Perlin?
Yay.
Ms. Spalding?
Yay.
Ms. Fox? Ms. Fox?
Yay.
All right, motion to defer passes. That will be deferred one meeting. And for us, this board, to director, just make sure we understand that's just one meeting. Ideally, between now and then, staff and Mr. Hobbs will have corrected any miscommunication there. So number 35 this evening is Haywood Shell. They actually have paid their civil penalty. Mr. Garth, is there anything we need to do on the agenda other than just to recognize, and do we do that via motion, that they've paid their civil penalty?
I think it's customary for the board to just make a motion to accept the civil penalty.
Very well. So number 35 on tonight's agenda, Haywood Shell Station. I'll entertain a motion from the board to accept the paid civil penalty for this violation.
So moved, Mr. Conway.
Second, Chris Bellamy.
Any discussion? All those in favor, please let me know your vote, yay or nay. Ms. Jarman,
Yay.
Mr. Bellamy,
Yay.
Mr. Conway,
Yay.
Mr. Perlin, Ms. Spalding,
Yay.
Ms. Fox,
Yay.
Mr. Perlin. You're muted, buddy. Having no vote for Mr. Perlin, I'm going to have 5 yeas, no nays. Motion to accept passes. Number 36, Rebar. Same situation. They paid the civil penalty on the 19th prior to the agenda coming out. I'll entertain a motion to accept the paid civil penalty for number 36, Rebar.
So moved, Mr. Conway.
Second, Chris Bellamy.
Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion on the vote to accept. Ms. Jarman,
Yay.
Mr. Bellamy,
Yay.
Mr. Conway,
Yay.
Mr. Perlin, Ms. Spalding,
Yay.
Ms. Fox.
Yay.
Mr. Perlin, I'm circling back to you. I believe you are still muted. Hearing no response from Mr. Perlin, we have 5 yeas, no nays, motion passes. Okay, number 37 on the agenda, weekend. I have on subpoenaed should have been Mr. Hugh Atkins, MPHD, Mr. Melvin Brown, and on the permit holder side, Mr. Grandison and Mr. Granderson and Shannon Ford. Director, do you have those numbers so that we can unmute the appropriate parties here?
I see that Mr. Granderson is online, and I don't know if the other individual is available or not.
Okay, Mr. Granderson, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. I'm here.
Very good, thank you. Mr. Atkins, can you hear me?
Yes.
Very well. And Mr. Brown, you're still there?
Yes, sir.
All right, very good, thank you. My first question, Mr. Grandison, you're the permit holder?
I am.
I'll ask you.
Also.
Okay, I'm sorry. Was that Sanford Ford? Is that right?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Shannon Ford. Okay, thank you. Mr. Grandison, my first question for you is plea this evening. Do you plead guilty or not guilty to the citation?
We're not gonna challenge it. Not guilty.
I'm sorry. Say that again.
I said, we're going to challenge it, not guilty.
Okay, very well, thank you. Okay, at this point, I would ask all individuals who plan to speak on this behalf be sworn in. At this point, Susan, I will ask you to unmute momentarily and swear in the folks for the weekend, as well as Mr. Atkins and Mr. Brown. Sade, could you perhaps unmute Miss Marilla?
Okay,
There you go.
can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, if you will all raise your right hands, please, I'll give you the oath. Do you all solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
We do. I do.
Yes.
Melvin Brown, I do.
All right. So we're going to start this trial by hearing Mr. Brown or Mr. Atkins. Which one of you will be speaking first on this matter?
Sir, I can defer everything to Mr. Atkins, or I can give you the groundwork first of why we filed a complaint for consideration to the beer board, whatever you prefer.
All right. Let's first hear from Mr. Atkins. Mr. Atkins, if you wouldn't mind.
That may be completely sufficient in every case.
Okay, Mr. Atkins.
Sure. Police officers responded to a complaint at weekend there at 1703 Church Street, and it was regard to several people. It said in the report more than 50 people not wearing masks inside the business. And when the officers got there, they saw several people outside in line not wearing masks, and the manager was approached to try to address the situation. When they got inside, dozens of patrons standing near the bar area not wearing masks, and this was referred by police to health department as a violation of, this happened on the 4th of December, at which time the health department and the county were in third amended and restated order 12, which had gone into effect on November 29th, which required customers and guests to follow order 8 on wearing masks except when seating and consuming food or beverages, and standing at the bar was prohibited at that time. The capacity issues were 100 per floor, so that is not, it may be alleged there. So anyway, and it was during the time that they were allowed, although it did say that they responded there at 9:45, so that no customers were supposed to enter after 10. But basically, it was a mask and standing violation of third amended and restated order 12.
Very well. Mr. Brown, do you have anything to add?
No, sir. The only thing on this and any subsequent case is that we received this information from the police department, and because it is allowing criminal conduct on the premises in violation of Title 68, violation of the order that Director Atkins described, that is why we submitted it to the board for consideration. That's the same in every case.
All right, very well. Okay, Mr. Granderson, if you're there, I will turn the floor over to you to so we can hear your case.
Yes. So, well, if I can begin with the first question, with a question, and again, I'll plead ignorance if this is something that I don't understand or that we did not know. But how did it come that a health department order is relayed to the beer board versus the, you know, obviously the health department, and then number two versus any other licensee department that that we also hold licenses with. Was that something that was in the directive, that any violations of this, and not that I'm not admitting to a violation, I'm just asking the question, is that how does it become a beer board issue?
Okay. I know the answer, but I'm going to defer to Mr. Brown. If you could answer Mr. Granderson's question.
Yes, sir. Sir, in each case where the Metro Beer Board received a official record or an official police report, including reports from health department inspectors that stated that a business was operating in violation of the county health director's order, we looked at it, looked and see how many offenses or violations were alleged. Sometimes it's one, sometimes it's two, sometimes it's three or more. And those violations, there is a Tennessee Code annotated Title 68, has several different chapters. And one of those chapters, it makes a violation of the order of the county health director, it makes that a misdemeanor criminal offense. So the violation for the beer board in that case is that it's unlawful. There's a Metro Beer Code, and it's a Metro Code of Law 7.08.140T. It's unlawful for any beer permit holder or his agent or employee to allow or engage in criminal activity on the premises. And so in this case, they were alleged on a police report and on a report by the health department that they are in violation of PCA 68, which is, that makes it a criminal offense. So that makes them also in violation of the beer code 7.08.140T.
Okay. Thank you for that explanation.
Yes, sir.
So on the night thereof, I was not in the building. My manager would have been the one that you would have spoken to. I do know that we had clear directives and signs and things up that were informing our patrons of the laws that were there. We do have guards that stand outside that are also checking IDs, obviously, but checking individuals who may walk up in a line that may get longer than normal, obviously, as they check IDs, which is, you know, very critical. Could someone have walked up or had people walk up without a mask on? Sure, but we have our directives in place. We did have our signages in place as well. And as far as having patrons standing up without masks on, again, with our guards walking around informing people that they need to have their masks on, it was still not, and again, being, as stated, under the capacity that was set at the time. So we were not, by your admission, we were not over that capacity. And we do have guards that walk around and tell people, and we do inform our staff to do so as well. You still have people who may get up and walk to the restroom or whatever that may have that on. The other additional component that we have that are not just of a traditional restaurant is that we also have hookah as well. So that was not added in that directive as an additional reason why people could have their mask off, but obviously to have someone have that in addition, in their hand or participating in that is as equal to drinking and eating at that time. So, and people generally will stand with that pipe because it is actually pretty high off of the table. So I'll say that it's not just about the food and the drink for us. We also do have that as well. About standing around the bar or whatnot, again, I can't tell you whether they were standing, quote unquote, around the bar or if they were standing if they were just standing or if they were in transit from one place to another, from the restroom to somewhere. I mean, it's not a kindergarten class where we're kind of saying, okay, everybody be seated and kind of everyone sits there and you have a hall monitor. It's just kind of, it's a festive environment. So we had our directives in place. We had our signage in place. We have our people directing people to put their masks on and things like that. I felt like we're doing a great offering masks and things like that. So I feel like we were in a great position to be in charge of our crowd and the directives that were there. I cannot physically count, or was not there to physically count the number of people standing up. And I know it was an approximation made that there was approximate 50, but I would really like to know if that was what the number was or not, because I don't want to be misrepresented if it was, again, a smaller number or whatnot. But I will say that we had our things in place, which I'm sure your officers probably saw as well. And that, again, as adults, we're doing as best we can to walk around and tell people to put their masks on. We're in, doing what we can as far as, demanding adult people and not children to do what has been directed by the city. So I felt like we were in a really good position to have done what was asked of us. But again, changing situations, someone checking the ID and 2 or 3 people walk up into a line, and then someone walks up at that very moment. I mean, it's just too many variables to say that we were just being delinquent in our follow through of the directives. And that's the reason why we're really challenging it, more so than anything else, is that, we're doing what we're supposed to do, but as a city and again, as individuals, you can ask adults to do what they need to do. And you can even ask them to leave if because we have done that as well. But I think that we do a great job in getting people to adhere to what we know are the policies of the city.
All right, very well. Are there any questions from the board of Mr. Granderson or Mr. Atkins in this case?
This is Fox. I've got a question.
Please.
Okay. To Mr. Atkins. Mr. Atkins, you mentioned that the manager at that time was approached and was asked to address the situation that you were witnessing. What was the outcome of that?
The report that I have says that when officers left the location, the patrons were in compliance.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions?
I don't have any other questions, but I just want to bring to light, the challenge of this conversation. We had a very spirited conversation last time around this same topic. And if people were in compliance when they left, I want maybe to see how we can discuss what that looks like. Because you can ask people to do what they're supposed to do. And if they do it, then what happens next? Do we continue to violate them, or do we say they did the education piece that we have been putting in place, or they did what they were supposed to do? I just want us to discuss, what it means for us to violate so many businesses when they're trying to be in compliance. And this was the same conversation, same things I had questions about last time as well.
May I also add something too, that having masks on or making the statement that someone that they did have masks on. Well, I would like to try to qualify that as well, because as people are eating or drinking, some people don't pull the mask all the way off. Some of them dangle it from their ear. At any point in time, you can take a snapshot of a room and say that any number of people are not in compliance. But if they're in the motion of doing, and that, that gets into this murky, again, are they in the motion of drinking or eating? Were they putting something down or picking something up? you know, it's just it gets, you know, but you know, to what I was saying, we offer masks on the way in. We do the temperature checks where we have signage up. I mean, I can, you know, we as a business we can command adults to do things, but they're again, they're snapshots in time. If we just want to, you know, look at a particular moment in time and say this is how the business does business. No, these are how these individuals did it, but we're constantly going around checking on them. And I wanted to make sure that I said that you know, we're not habitually not in compliance of what's happening here.
Chairman, this is Melvin Brown. Could I add something that may help?
Sure.
I have the police report, and it's my sense from the narrative, the tone of the narrative, is that the staff was very cooperative with the police, completely cooperative, and just as was stated, that when they left, everything was completely in compliance, and the goal was compliance, and it was achieved. And also, they also were noted that there was no citations issued. They only made a report because that's part of their assignment. They have to do it. And there was a report of violations observed, but all those violations, according to the report, they were all corrected by the time they left. And to Ms. Yarman's point, of course, that's up to the board. But the police report that we have reflects that the management was completely, of course, I wasn't there, Mr. Atkins wasn't there, and the permit holder wasn't there, but the report that we have from the police that were there indicates that his staff was completely cooperative and did everything they could and got everybody in compliance by the time the police left. And I mean, admittedly, those are just simply the facts that we have.
Sure. My point to add to that was that, as we demonstrated earlier, you know, the goal here is not to always penalize. It's to ensure that there's responsible action to some of these things going on. And I think that we've just demonstrated that in this case, you know, they noticed something going on, but they corrected. They were asked to correct it. They did. They left. It seemed okay. It was working. Again, I think that should be our goal, is to make sure that tenants, geez, this is my day job, make sure that permit holders do what they can to become and maintain compliance. In this case, it seems to be the case. If it's an education they were seeking, then they got notified that evening. They're here in front of us this evening, and the case has been made. With that, I will stop and see if anyone else on the board has any questions.
Just so
Any comments?
Just so I'm clear, this is Will Conway.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Brown, Mr. Atkins, and the permit holder, I don't have his name right in front of me. None of them were actually there. They're just kind of going off the reports that they had and what the manager said. Is that correct?
That is my understanding.
That is correct.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Chair, just procedurally, this is Chris Bellamy. So a citation was never issued, is that correct?
It sounds to me like there was not a citation. I'll ask Mr. Atkins or Mr. Brown to validate or state otherwise, but it sounds to me like there was no health department or law enforcement citation issued.
The health department doesn't issue citations. We issue requests for civil warrants through Metro Legal. So we don't write tickets per se on the spot.
Got it.
We're not, until we got into COVID-19, weren't really
right. So let me ask the question a different way. What in this case, did the health department issue a notice of violation of any sort?
Yeah, we referred this to Metro Legal for a civil warrant.
Okay. Mr. Bellamy, does that answer your question?
Which is in effect a citation from the health department.
And I guess my question is, was one granted?
Yeah, they had a civil warrant, and I don't know whether it's been to environmental court or not.
Well, I would say we do have a $2,000 civil penalty. I'm looking at now. If you do not request to contest the charges, you may pay a civil penalty of $2,000.
And that's from the beer
test.
board, correct, Mr. Granderson?
That is correct. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, Mr. Chair, I'm going to tell you so I have a couple of points. One, I agree with everyone that the whole purpose of this is to compel compliance. Some of our prior offenders we saw where they basically scoffed at the idea of compelling, or complying, and we took issue with that. This does not seem to be the case. The other issue I have is the owner is correct. It's also a hookah bar, and so the fact that was not mentioned at all by any of the reports gives me some pause for concern that we're not getting the full picture. So those are kind of my points.
Sure. So let me say this. I'll call for an order or a motion. In this case, the permit holder has pled not guilty. We have two options. We can sustain the citation or we can dismiss it. If the board so pleases, I'll entertain a motion on either, as to either action, either to dismiss or to sustain the citation.
This is Chris Bellamy. I'd move to dismiss the citation.
Second.
I have a motion to dismiss. I have a second. Mr. Jarman, was that you?
It was. I'm competing.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on the motion to dismiss? On the motion to dismiss, as I call your name, I'll entertain your vote by yay to approve or nay to oppose. Ms. Jarman?
Yay.
Mr. Bellamy?
Yay.
Mr. Conway?
Yay.
Mr. Perlin? Ms. Spalding?
Yay.
Ms. Fox?
Yay.
Mr. Perlin, I still show that you are muted. Charday, if you can hear me. Mr. Perlin, can you hear me now?
I can hear you.
I have a vote on the motion to dismiss. Yes or no? Yay or nay? Mr. Perlin?
Yay.
Thank you. Have 6 yays, no nays. Motion to dismiss passes. Mr. Granderson, thank you for being here this evening. Thank you for your compliance. Thank you for your efforts to run a positive business.
Thank you so much to everyone on the board. I appreciate you. And Mr. Chair, thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good evening. Number 38, D3M LLC, Jazzy's Bistro. Mr. Atkins is already here. Mr. Brown is already here. Is a Mark Hopkins with us? Mr. Director, do we have the ability to locate Mr. Hopkins in the list of attendees and unmute him?
He's on the call and he's unmuted.
Mr. Hopkins, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Very well, thank you. For my first question for you this evening is, how do you plead on this matter? Guilty or not guilty?
Well, not guilty with mitigating circumstances.
All right, very well. Mr. Atkins, will you be speaking on this, or Mr. Brown?
I can speak, and then we can do like we did on the last one, if it's all right
Okay.
with Mr. Brown. Jazzy's actually late on November 27th, officers dispatched to a business for violating the public health order. It was at 1:22 in the morning. They arrived at 1:38. Location had cars lining the street, overflow from their parking lot. They were operating under second amended and restated Order 12 that went into effect on November 23rd. And At that time, closing time was 11 p.m. And this was 1:38 when the officers arrived. So they talked to the owner and explained the order to them and got the business to close. But again, they were supposed to close at 11 and it was well after 1 a.m. on the 28th, and they were still fully operating.
Okay, Mr. Brown, do you have anything to add? Mr. Brown, you may be muted because I can't hear you, sir.
All right, sir. Did I come through?
You are now.
All right, sir. The only thing I would add is that the narrative of the police report says, in summary, exactly what Mr. Atkins said. And the only thing that differs on this is I would offer, in all consideration for the permit holder still, that I would give you the analogy of a 3 a.m. normal closing time pre-COVID. If the police arrived and everyone was still on the premises and open at 4:38, we would certainly, and they had reported this to us, we would have cited them in the same way. If they were over capacity for the pre-COVID capacity, and if they were an hour and 38 minutes after the legal closing time, we would have cited them for that as well. So if you take the analogy, this is somewhat different than standing up without a mask as it relates to being objective as opposed to subjective. That's the only thing I would offer.
Okay, very well. Thank you. Mr. Hopkins, we'll hear from you. Mr. Atkins, did you have something else to say? I'm sorry. You're muted.
I would just say that they were 2 hours and 38 minutes after closing time at 1:38 rather than 1 hour and 30 minutes past.
Noted. Yes, thank you. Okay, Mr. Hopkins, we'll hear from you now. I apologize for that.
Okay, I think the city mandate came in, I think on the 23rd, it was a lack of understanding. But is there any way you can unmute the manager who was there also? He's on the call.
All right, so tell you what, let me stop you. Yeah, I should have done this a moment ago before we can hear any testimony from you. Mr. Atkins and Mr. Brown are already sworn in this evening. I apologize. So getting ahead of myself. Mr. Hopkins, you, and if there's anyone else that will be speaking on your behalf, we do need to swear you in. I apologize. Susan, I got too fast on you.
Okay. Am I muted? Okay.
Yes, you are.
All right. Would you raise your right hands, please? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? So help you God.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. Hopkins, is there someone there with you, or is there someone calling in on behalf of?
Is someone calling in on behalf?
Do we have a number for that other individual, Director?
Does he have a name for that person?
Milton Williams.
Okay, he's on the call. Yeah, we've got him. There he is.
Hello?
Mr. Williams, is that you?
Yes, can y'all hear me?
We can now, yes, sir. Let me ask you a question. When Mr. Murillo just swore in Mr. Hopkins, were you on that?
Yes.
Okay, so we'll understand that you are giving sworn testimony under oath, correct?
Okay. Correct.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Hopkins, I'm sorry. Now, let's start over with your commentary. Please proceed.
Okay, I think our biggest thing, pre-COVID, we were down for 7 months, and I think the understanding of the law when the mandate came out from the mayor, we didn't have a complete understanding of it. Once we knew what the law was, because I don't even think the officer that came there had understanding of the law. So once we found out that we were supposed to be closed at 11, no patrons were supposed to enter in after 10, we complied. And we were not issued a citation or anything. Now, I don't know if Mr. Williams has something to add, but it makes it very hard for us to pay rent when you have to close at 11 o'clock and we're at a night spot.
Okay. Mr.
Uh,
Williams, he opened the door for you. Do you have any commentary on that?
Well, first of all, I just want to thank you guys for y'all service because, we depend on committees like that to make sure that permit holders are able to, be proactive and with their liquor and beer sales. So, and we want you to understand that, we understand the sincerity of this pandemic, and we by no means uh play this type of situation cheap or anything. But at that time, it's been so confusing, and we all normal people here. I mean, we watching the news and we trying to figure things out, and we trying to, we trying our best, man. We all scared. We got families just done passed and died from this situation, man. I mean, it's I've had patrons and loyal customers I mean, it has been a very, very dramatic situation this past year. And we and my partner Mark have been doing our very best to make sure that we are in compliance. And that particular night, we got confused. We I guess we didn't read it right, or we didn't see the news the way it's, or the mayor said something one week and we forgot, maybe he changed the weekend. It gets so confusing, and trying to along with that, and trying to maintain a night establishment, because we are a night establishment. We have been hit harder than any other business in the entire country when it comes to us making our money and being able to keep and maintain our business. Excuse me.
I'm sorry, you continue. I heard some background noise, but please continue.
Well, I mean, that's just, so,
Watch again.
we are definitely, I'm sorry.
Mr. Williams, I'm sorry, if there are other folks on the call that aren't speaking, let me ask you to please mute your lines. Mr. Williams, I apologize once again. Please continue. Hopefully everybody's muted that's not speaking now.
Well, I appreciate it. And like I say, man, me and my partner's been there and been a pillar to the community for well over 15 years. We've been there, and we are definitely in compliance with the police department and Metro and the liquor and beer board. We are proud to be permit holders, and we cherish that. We really respect everything, but as just American citizens and just American people that I'm talking to you guys as well as us, man. Y'all know for a fact this has been the most horrific, confusing situation that I am 56 years old. I have never in my life been in a situation where this has been so confusing. And we are here not to violate or to wiggle around. No, that's not how we operate. We are upstanding men in the community. We do our best to set an example. We don't want to have this being known that we're not in compliance or we break it. No, we're not those kind of people. But at that particular time, yeah, we dropped the ball. That's why Mark said, I'm not going to say that we're just not guilty, but then again, we're not guilty on a lot of this stuff, on a lot of the confusion, and a lot. Today, I mean, we through the grace of God, we hanging on to our business. We have people that's been working for us since the time we've been open, and we're trying our best to keep them afloat because they help us raise this business and make this business the way it is today. So I mean, just like I said, we were open, and I'm not going to dispute. The officers did come by, and we were open. But and I don't even know if I was there. I don't even think I was there. But I hold responsibility, you know, and I'm not gonna pass the torch. I mean, I'm the operator of that company, but I'm telling you, and you know, it's just been one of the most horrific. I mean, I don't know if I'm gonna need counseling after this thing here, man, because I mean, it has been so detrimental. It's been so just mind-boggling, this whole situation. And I just, you know, as just normal people like you and me are, everybody on the board, everybody, man, that's listening, we are citizens of this city. We are normal people, you know, and we are doing our very best to comply with a pandemic that none of us ever seen. None of us have been a part of this. None of us has, we've only read about what we're going through today. You have to, and you don't have to, but we are asking that you pardon our negligence because it wasn't intentional. It was not intentional, you know, and that's all I gotta say about it.
All right. Thank you very much. To the board, are there any questions of Mr. Atkins, Mr. Brown, Mr. Hopkins, or Mr. Williams?
This is David Spalding. Sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
And maybe I missed it. How long had that closing time curfew been in effect?
Mr. Atkins?
Yeah, the closing, the curfew at that time had actually been extended from 10 to 11 closing time. Previously, the closing time was 10, but on November 23rd, which was like a week before this, the closing time was actually extended an hour to 11 o'clock. So it had been an earlier closing time for several weeks leading up to the amended order on the 23rd, which extended it to 11 o'clock.
Okay. Okay, very well. Thank you.
If I can add, that was the first week. The 23rd was Monday, and I think we were cited on that Friday.
Okay, any other questions of the board? So to the board, my question, my ask of you is a motion to either sustain a citation or to dismiss the citation.
This is Chris Bellamy. I move we sustain the citation.
Second, Will Conway.
A motion is second to sustain. Any discussion on that motion? Hearing none, I entertain your vote on the motion to sustain. Ms. Jarman. Ms. Jarman, are you still with us? I don't believe so. Mr. Bellamy?
Yay.
Mr. Conway?
Yay.
Mr. Perlin?
Yay.
Ms. Spalding?
Yay.
Ms. Fox? Ms. Fox, are you with us?
Yay.
I still see your name. Thank you. 5 yeas, no nays, motion passes. Motion to sustain passes. Next, penalty phase. I'll entertain a motion on penalty. To that, my only commentary to this is, again, it's something that I'm going to continue to push on, is that to me, these issues were a violation of one order. I'm not a fan of multiplying the penalty for two specific violations of the one standing order.
And I'll ask Chair as well as Director. Is the reason why it's 2,000 because of the hours and the capacity instead of being 1,000?
It's due to the fact that there were multiple violations. So based upon how the boards ruled in the past, it would have been 1,000 for each. each violation.
And I disagree with the director. It's maybe. I don't know that I would agree that we've continuously voted to, in recent history, for multiple violations of these of one individual order. I think we're dealing with this on a regular basis these days.
If I may clarify that, the precedent's based upon how the board ruled in previous violations that came before the board back last June. And so based upon that, we had to provide the recommendations based on the prior precedent that was set back then. It's up to the board to make the determination whether or not they want to follow that recommendation or not.
If I can add,
Mr. Williams, Mr. Williams or Mr. Hopkins, I can't allow you to any input at this moment.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Mr. Chair, if you would be so kind, this is Chris Bellamy. Can you remind me of the board recommendation? I understand the $2,000 one apiece for the individual penalties assessed for the activity. What was the other recommendation?
It was $2,000 civil penalty or a 7-day suspension and a 30-day probation.
Are we at the phase of a motion?
Yep.
All right. I would like to move that we assess a $1,000 penalty or a 7-day suspension and 30-day, or followed by a 30-day probation.
I'll second Will Conway.
I have a motion. I have a second. Any discussion on the motion?
I do want to say one thing, that I do not believe that the burden has been carried that they were exceeding their capacity. Obviously I moved to sustain the violation or second it because I do think that they were operating after hours. And I think that Mr. Bellamy's recommendation of a $1,000 civil penalty or 7-day suspension, 30-day probation is appropriate. So that's what my discussion, that's why I second.
Very well. Any other discussion on the motion? Hearing none, I'll entertain your vote when I call your name on the motion. Ms. Jarman, again, I think she is no longer here. Mr. Bellamy?
Yay.
Mr. Conway?
Yay.
Mr. Perlin?
Yay.
Ms. Spalding?
Yay.
Ms. Fox?
Yay.
5 yeas, no nays, motion passes. So Mr. Hopkins and Mr. Williams, the board has sustained the citation and as a result has issued a fine in the manner of $1,000. You can choose to pay that. I believe you have 7 days, or within that same 7-day period, you may choose to serve a 7-day suspension followed by a 30-day probation. That is your choice. You can discuss that with staff over the course of the next week. Again, it is your choice as to which penalty you choose, to either pay the citation of $1,000 or serve the 7-day suspension. We appreciate you gentlemen being here tonight. I think we certainly understand the challenges that are going on in the industry. And I think the board has shown that we're open to listening to folks like yourself. I wish you the best of luck. Appreciate you being here tonight. Thanks so much. Next on the agenda, let's see, that was 38. Number 39 is Losers, I guess Losers X, Losers 10 LLC, Losers Bar and Grill downtown. They have requested a deferral pending their court case, which is to be adjudicated in May. And I'm just reading off the comments from staff. Their attorney has requested deferral to the Wednesday, June 23rd meeting. To staff, to director, are there any concerns or any issues with that deferral?
We don't have any concerns, but I'll allow legal counsel Matthew Garth to opine on that as well.
Marlon?
Thanks, Mr. Chairman, if I may. Just so the board is aware and just for them to take into consideration, I'm not aware of any prior precedent that would make another pending court case a valid basis for a deferral. Of course, the board can make the determination however it sees fit. But I'd also point out that this other pending case is a separate proceeding involving a civil warrant drafted by the Metro Legal Department and General Sessions Court, and the outcome in that case is not determinative and has no bearing on the matter before the board. And I'd also just point out that many courts are closed right now, and this pending case could potentially be pushed out even further. So the board is not necessarily obligated to set a deferral of the matter, for May or for June or for that far out. But of course, it's up to the board to make the determination of whether it wants to defer the matter and for how long.
Sure. Not only just from a historical perspective, to provide some historical color, generally we grant deferrals for the most part if a permit holder requests them. We do understand that our decisions here, as Mr. Garth has said, are not dependent or contingent upon another body's decisions. But generally, we have granted deferrals when requested. In this case, it's a little bit longer than normal. But then again, historically, we do grant deferrals if the request has been made, and if it's not a significant or serious matter, as in someone who's violated a sale to minor multiple times. So to that, I'll entertain commentary from the board or a motion to defer, or comment that we proceed.
I'll move to defer to Wednesday, June 23rd, to the meeting requested.
Okay.
Chris Bellamy, I'll second that.
Motion to defer. I have a second. Any comments? Entertain your motion. Entertain your vote on the motion to defer. Mr. Bellamy.
Mr. Chair, I had a comment. I'm sorry.
Oh, sure.
I just want the attorney to know that the reason we're okay with the deferral has nothing to do with his pending court case, because I don't want him to have it in his head that if that court case gets moved again, that he would automatically be granted a deferral or something to that effect.
Noted for the record. Thanks for the clarification.
And my vote is yay.
Mr. Bellamy. All right. Thank you very much. Mr. Conway.
Yay.
Motion to defer. Yay. Thank you. Mr. Perlin.
Yay.
Ms. Spalding.
Yay.
Ms. Fox.
Yay.
5 yeas, no nays. Motion to defer is granted till June 23rd. Number 40 on the agenda this evening, I believe this is the last trial of the evening, Doc Holliday's Nashville LLC, Doc Holliday's Saloon. We have Mr. Hugh Atkins from the Metro Health Department, Special Agent Melvin Brown, who has already been sworn in, Mr. Barrett Hobbs, and Brandon Brooks. Mr. Hobbs and Mr. Brooks, are you with us this evening?
I'm Barrett Hobbs, sorry.
Okay. Mr. Hobbs and Mr. Brooks with us.
Oh, no.
Excuse me, this is Sade from Metropolitan. Can I interject for a second? Mr. Hobbs, are you connected with a phone as well?
No, ma'am. I'm just on my trusty laptop.
Okay, it looks like can you go to audio and video at the top?
Oh, you're gonna really show I don't know anything about this. Hang on just a second. Yes, I'm on here.
Can you go to speaker and microphone settings?
Yes, ma'am. I'm there.
Can you turn down your microphone input level?
Yes. How's that?
And also turn down your speaker output level a tad.
Bad ears. I'm in the bar business. Sorry. How's that?
I think we need more input.
At least you didn't say cowbells.
Trust me, that was on my mind.
More input. All right. How's that?
It's
A little
better.
bit more.
More? Okay.
It's better. Still
echoing though. That's
Pretty
where
badly.
about where it was.
Well,
How about if I click remove background noise? You think that'll help?
anything
Right.
can't hurt.
All right. Sorry, I've done these all day today. I hadn't had a problem, but I'm always on Zoom, not this whatever we're on. All right, let's try that.
All right, I can hear you fine. I can just hear myself twice.
Let's see.
And I really don't want to hear me more than once.
There's another one on here that says sync mute button status on microphone device. I don't know that that would help.
No, it's not gonna help. I think we just may have to deal with it.
Okay. We could just dismiss due to audio problems.
Okay. Can I get another board member to say something, anything? So to test this echo?
Hello,
Test.
this is Joe. Can you still got the echo when I talk?
Yep. Okay, so here's what we're gonna
Chair
do.
Taylor, this is Sade from Metro ITS again. I'm
Yes,
just
ma'am.
going to keep Mr. Hobbs muted while everyone else speaks. If you could just announce again when it's time for his turn to speak, and I will unmute him to keep down the background noise.
All right, that seems like a great plan. Thank you very much. So at this point, earlier, Mr. Hobbs had not been sworn in on the, I don't believe he had. Susan, you did swear in Mr. Hobbs earlier, right? I'm seeing you shake your head now. Thank you. So let's unmute Mr. Hobbs and let him be sworn in, and then let him give his plea of guilty or not guilty, and then remute him.
If you'll raise your right hand, I'll give you the Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give in this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so we. Sade, can we mute this? All right. So in this case, Mr. Atkins, we'll hear from you first.
Oh, okay. Yeah, this case we submitted to Metro Legal on the 24th of November due to violations that weekend where employees were observed interacting with customers, not wearing face coverings over their nose and mouth. Patrons were not socially distanced at the bar or upstairs. Multiple patrons were standing and drinking upstairs, and that made them in violation of Order 10, actually, for the establishments downtown. That this one actually went into effect on November 1. This one had the activities described on November 21st rolled in with November 20th, and actually the previous weekend on November the 14th, Health Department and police personnel had visited the establishment and found them out of compliance. So violation of Order 10.
Okay, can I add one thing, that we do not have anything regarding a violation on November 14th. So as a board, we should not take anything other than what is in front of us under consideration. It's just a reminder for the board. Mr. Brown, do you have anything to add?
Sir, I would only add that, again, this was Title 68 violation under TCA, which makes it Metro Code 7.08.140. It's the only reason it was given to the board for consideration. And again, as in previous discussions, the recommended penalty was based on our previous standards of 1,000 observed or reported violations for the board to consider and amend as they see fit. And that's all. And the police report that I have about the on November the 20th and 21st, that weekend is exactly what Mr. Atkins said.
All right, very well. Sure, Dave, if you will unmute Mr. Hobbs so that we can hear from him. Mr. Hobbs, you can go ahead.
Okay, can you hear me okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay, first, Chairman Taylor, I apologize on the Nashville Palace for interrupting your vote. Forgot after a motion that you still had to go through it, so didn't mean to interrupt you earlier.
Okay.
So I would like the board to know that I'm the chairman currently of the Mayor's Hospitality Task Force, and that I've worked with Mr. Atkins really before the task force was even established. So I'm pretty clear on what the rules are and what the rules aren't. We do our very best. We certainly aren't perfect, just like anyone else isn't. Obviously, I'm going to pay a fine for the Nashville Palace. So when I've done something wrong, I pay the toll and move on. With this situation at Dock Holidays, I've got a couple of questions. One, which agencies actually wrote the citation? First question. Second question is, who did they give the citations to? Because until Terrence reached out to me, I didn't have any paperwork on this. And the last point is, as Mr. Taylor pointed out, not only do y'all not have the November 14th information, I don't have anything on November 14th. So my first question is, which agencies were involved and who did they issue the citation to at the time of these alleged violations?
Mr. Atkins, can you address that?
We had personnel on site, Metro Public Health did, and what they do is write up a report on site and leave with the manager. But also, as I said earlier in the other case, we don't issue actual citations. We request civil warrants through Metro Legal, and then those are served by a process server. So that was the process. Now, I don't know, every one of these who got served or what, but that's the process we go through. Some of these, right now the police are responding directly to some and may issue they do issue actually citations, but on this one it was the task force working the weekend, so involved personnel from health, Metro PD, Beer Board, and sometimes depending on the violations you may get the fire marshal involved if it's a capacity issue. So it's a team effort. But from the health department standpoint, I accumulate reports from the agencies and request the civil warrants that cite them into environmental court. And then I refer those to the chair or the director, Mr. McDonough. I just copy him on those for actions if they are beer permit holders.
ask it a different way. Maybe Mr. Brown could help with this. Was Doc Hollidays issued any citations from the Metro Police Department, from the fire marshal, from the beer board, from anyone on this particular set of circumstances?
All right, so let me look up. Am I unmuted?
You are. Sure, could you mute Mr. Hobbs? Come on, Mr. Brown answers this question. Mr. Brown, go ahead.
All right, sure. Stand by, let me change screens. All right, on the paperwork that we have related to this is we have an environmental court copy of a civil warrant that's supposed to be served by private process, Mr. Hobbs. It was supposed to, for a court date on January the 5th, 2021. Now, it doesn't reflect that it was served, the copy we have, but it's a copy of citing before environmental court about the violations that are alleged. As far as the police report, let me turn to the narrative. The police report says in the narrative that while conducting bar compliance, other person one, I will see that is one employee, it's one of the health department employees, worked for the health department, witnessed several violations of the mayor's executive health order number 10. They included the following: 2 employees not wearing face coverings, patrons not socially distant, patrons standing while drinking in the upstairs portion of the bar. In OP2, an employee started the location at the time of the compliance check. A comment sheet was issued by the health department to the employee and will be passed along to Metro Legal for possible issuance of a civil warrant. And apparently one was issued because we have a copy of it. Now, keep in mind that all I'm doing, I'm reading you a narrative from a police report that was taken by Officer Kevin Wallace and approved by Supervisor Kevin Young. And the health department person on the scene looks like identified as Dale Crystal, and the employee on the scene looks like is identified as Brandon Brooks, if I'm looking at the numbers right. And that's all I really have to add is the reading into the record the narrative of the police report.
Mr. Hobbs, if you're unmuted.
Thank you. Thank you for that explanation. Thank you for the explanation, Mr. Brown. Mr. Atkins referred to in the violation that we had people standing upstairs. I'm confused why that is an issue when that building is a historic building and the only bathrooms in the facility are on the second level. And unfortunately for me, I'm sure most of the board members have not been to Doc Hollidays, but I'm hoping maybe a few of y'all have. Your normal meeting space at Metro Beer Board is larger than the space we're talking about. The entire building that is licensed by the Metro Beer Board is 960 feet. Doc Hollidays is a walk-in area straight off the sidewalk. Our doors open up onto the sidewalk. You walk in. Pre-coronavirus, we have 18 bar stools. So I don't want the impression to be painted that we're like the Wild Horse, where it's a gigantic bar on 2nd Avenue and there's a huge mezzanine and we had a rave party going on the 2nd floor. The people on the 2nd floor were waiting in line to go to the restroom. There is a bar upstairs that we operate during normal non-corona times. The people waiting in line in the bathroom leaned against the bar. If you go down there tonight and someone is going to the restroom, they have to go upstairs to get to the restroom and they lean against the bar. The distance from both of my bathrooms to the center of that bar And just so we're clear on the length of the bar is 9 feet long. Pre-coronavirus, it holds 5 bar stools. There were no bar stools at that bar. There isn't any right now. And so when the people went in the bathroom door, they're literally 5 or 6 feet from this bar. So we had tape on the ground to space people out. And Mr. Atkins can testify to this, during our committee meetings, we have gone round and round about people exiting bars during this time, and they're all crowding in our doorways, or when they're getting ready to close down and they crowd to go to the bathroom right before we ask everybody to leave. So it's impossible for people to come into my business, number one, by the size of it and not be somewhat troubling in social distancing. Number two, if they go to the bathroom, they have to go upstairs. Number three, there wasn't an ordinance, there still isn't an ordinance that if you have a beer in your hand, you have to have a mask on. So here we've got people standing in line to go to the bathroom with a beer in their hand. We acknowledge that. The report says that. They didn't have their mask on. There's not a law that says they have to wear their mask. There's a suggestion on one of the previous trials that I was listening to. Someone may mention that some people take the mask down and drink and then put it back up. That's their choice. That's not the law. And that's not the ordinance. And it's not even reasonable to really think, but some people are overcautious. So I just want everybody to understand the second level. And then I ask, is there anything in section 10 or whatever the reference is to number 10 that specifically says patrons cannot go to the second floor if that is the only place to go to the restroom?
Sade, before Mr. Hughes speaks, can you mute Mr. Hobbs? Mr. Atkins.
Yeah, there's nothing obviously that would say you couldn't go to the second floor for the bathroom or anything else. You're allowed to operate multiple floors. The orders do specifically say, though, if you're not sitting at a table consuming and drinking a beverage, that you are supposed to be masked. So standing in a line waiting to go to the restroom is not a allowance for them to stand in the line holding a beer, drinking it, or their mask down, holding a beer and maybe drinking it. It's not. So it is specific that if you're eating or drinking, you need to be seated to prevent any kind of unmasked mingling or conversation. I also want to sort of speak to Mr. Hobbs. He did point out that he and I have been working together closely as part of the mayor's Hospitality Advisory Committee. He has been very helpful. He leads that committee, as he said. And one reason I wanted to point that out too is at the last meeting, we had somebody that represented themselves as being on that committee that actually, in fact, was not. But actually, Mr. Hobbs is correct. He and I work together. He's for what it's worth, I feel like he's been an asset to, especially lately with the reopening and loosening of restrictions and working with us on that. So since we did have somebody misrepresent that last time, I want to confirm that he does lead that committee that he spoke of.
All right, Mr. Hobbs, I'll allow you to make some closing comments.
Well, I've got another issue with the employee mask. But before I get to that, I want to point out that I think the city, early on, we were all drinking from a fire hose. We didn't know what to do. I think as time has gone, the city has done somewhat of an unfair thing in challenging the health department to do something they've never done before. I think it's been unfair to put the beer board in the position that they've been put in to deal with people like you've dealt with tonight and myself. I could have easily just paid the citation and moved on. But I wanted to take the time to address the board tonight to say, none of this has been fun. I hope as we come out of this, boards like yourself that govern people's livelihoods will take an opportunity to say, what did we do good? What did we do wrong? So if God forbid this ever happens again, all of the operators in this city are communicated through our licensed boards. Still to this point, we don't get communicated from you guys when there's a change in our operations. And I've said that all along, that that's a problem. And I just want to say that, you know, these are tough times, and really at Doc Holliday specifically and other businesses, the orders don't make practical sense for us to even operate, but we've got to make a living. As far as my employees without their mask on, I have 2 employees that did not have mask on this particular time. Brandon Brooks was one who was subpoenaed. He no longer works for me. He had asserted that he was part of a religious organization that would not allow him to cover his face. I've been doing this for 25 years, and I thought I'd heard it all. But that's what he asserted. And he said, I can't wear a mask. So what did I do? I emailed Tom Sharp, who is a counterpart to Hugh Atkins, and I directly went to Mayor Cooper and said, I have an employee that's hit me with this. I don't want to get sued over religious stuff. We need a plan for operators to know. And the other employee was a wounded veteran who was a bar back who doesn't have lung capacity. And when he actively works behind the bar as a bar back, he can't breathe well. So when he is behind the bar, he doesn't wear a mask. So we moved him after this incident to the front door where he doesn't have to move physically, and he wears a mask when he works the front door. Both of these situations were presented to the city, and I never got an answer. You know, Mayor Cooper in one of our public committee meetings brought the matter up that he couldn't help everybody with certain instances, that I needed to find another job for him. I couldn't do that for Brandon, so I let him go because he said he had a religious reason for not wearing a mask. So I think it's unfair. You know, I know the health department has a job, y'all have a job. We have a job also. And when we're doing our very best in a 900 square foot bar to operate, the reason there's no tables for them to set them down on near the bathroom is the fire marshal, when we set them up, said we had to take it out because it blocked the exit to the building because it's so small. That's why there wasn't tables near the bathrooms for people to set their beer down when they wanted to go to the restroom. So I can go on and challenge each one a little violation on this, but the bigger point that I would like to end on, and I appreciate Chairman Taylor, you letting me have a few minutes here, is the system is flawed. It's flawed at the beginning, it's flawed now. And you know, I think it's unfair as an operator to what Melvin Brown stated earlier. The civil warrant has never been delivered to me. So the health department and the taxpayers' money paid a group of people to come to my business, write me a violation that was never given to any manager. Brandon Brooks never received paperwork. I never received paperwork. No one identified themselves that we had done something wrong and we needed to correct it that night. We've not been issued a warning prior to this. So in fairness to operators in this city, if you didn't give us a warning, you didn't warn us that night, you didn't contact ownership, and the system didn't get the civil penalty through the court systems delivered to me, I don't see any way you couldn't dismiss this. You know, I would ask to dismiss it on that. If you guys want me to pay a civil penalty, I'll pay a civil penalty. But I think there's no merits to these violations. You know, there's nothing in the report that says how many people were in my building. It says too many. How many were in there? Was there 10, 30, 5, 6, 100? There's no information. you know, and this is my livelihood. So if I get fined or found guilty for these that are not corroborated with any facts whatsoever, and then somebody decides to sue me down the road, they're going to pull my beer board file and they're going to say, well, Mr. Hobbs, you were cited for people standing on your upstairs drinking. Your staff wasn't wearing a mask. You got too many people in your bar. And so you've laid the groundwork for liability on a lawsuit. So I take this stuff very seriously from a liability standpoint for our industry. And I'll answer any questions, and I do appreciate everybody's work. Mr. Atkins has worked thousands of hours. The beer board's put in a tough spot. I'm put in a tough spot. But this kind of stuff doesn't hold water. So you can mute me, and I'll answer any questions anybody has.
All right. Sade, will you mute Mr. Hobbs? I believe Mr. Atkins has a comment, and then we will move to discussion.
Yeah, and I'll echo what Mr. Hobbs says, that these are really tough times. And I know maybe unlike some of the previous cases, Mr. Hobbs has more than one facility, so he's got personnel he's trying to manage. I would say that these violations were explained to two different managers on two different nights. The Friday night, and there's a paperwork where one manager, there's different managers on different nights. Brandon Brooks, as Mr. Hobbs pointed out, on one night, and then on another night, it was William Garino, or I don't know if that name rings a bell with Mr. Hobbs or not. But anyway, those when we see violations, we explain. The health department personnel, when we're on site, speak with managers every time and explain it, and fill out a field comment sheet. And now we do have some that we've run into that refuse to sign the comment sheet, but not in these two cases. There are signed comment sheets filled out by our personnel that were received by management on site. But all of these things that I think Mr. Hobbs points out are definitely, like you said, none of us have been here before. We do need a good after action report after all this is said and done. And hopefully we won't have to do it again, but if we can't learn from it going into whatever's next, then all of this certainly would be for nothing. But that's about all I got to say, and I appreciate everybody's patience, and I appreciate all the businesses. I hear these stories on these calls, and I sympathize. I know everybody here, they're making sacrifices in their business to try to protect us all, and that does not go unrecognized by myself or anyone at Metro Public Health. And I don't think anybody at their board or the police department fails to notice that as well. But thank you.
All right. Shirley, real quick, and as I'm always going to do, when someone mentions something to the effect that maybe changes dialogue, I'm going to give them a chance to respond. Mr. Hobbs, would you have any commentary to what Mr. Atkins just said?
Only to point out, we do not have any employees by the name of William. Again, it goes to the paperwork problem in this system. That's it. Thank you for that opportunity.
Okay, Sade, will you mute Mr. Hobbs? Thank you. So now I'm going to open up for questions for the board for Mr. Atkins or Mr. Hobbs. I want to start with a question. It kind of goes back to where we went to with the case earlier this evening that we dismissed. Understanding that, we've seen this repeatedly for months now, where we have, I wouldn't call it opportunity, but it is, we're challenged with issuing citations and fines for actions that we as a staff weren't engaged or involved in. We're just getting a report. I think as a board, we need to tighten that process up. And that's maybe I'm not looking at you, Director, but I think we as a board need to tighten that process up to make it fair, equitable across the board, realizing we're a year into this, but it's still an issue that folks are dealing with. But to that effect, it's really a question for Mr. Atkins, goes back to the issue that came up, or the action that came up earlier this evening, that we gave an opportunity and dismissed the event or the citation that was issued, because when the folks left, we had the opportunity to correct it. And as we've already addressed, we lean heavily toward the opportunity for corrective actions to take place. In this instance, did something like that happen? Were they given that opportunity? Do you have any commentary on that?
Well, again, I was alerted to the situation occurring on the 20th, the night of the 20th. And that was really, they went in and they complied on the 20th, but the team that works on the weekends followed up the next night and found them out of compliance again. So they were visited the previous night. And again, to Mr. Hobbs's statement, he had a manager and he changed. It was two separate people. So it was different management on different nights. So that likely played into it as well. But in this case, and also, even though they're not mentioned on, like you said earlier, you pointed out to me earlier that nothing in this citation references the 14th, but I throw that in to say that we visited them the previous weekend to get them in compliance as well. So in this case, and it could have been three different managers for all I know. I know it was at least two different managers, but in this case, they did get in compliance each time, but the next time we were in there, they were out of compliance again.
Okay. Mr. Conway, do you have a question?
Well, if I did have any questions, it doesn't appear that anyone was actually there that could answer any of my questions. None of the witnesses that were actually there were subpoenaed. The only reference to anything in the complaint that someone was a witness to was Mr. Hobbs and his admission that he has two employees not wearing face coverings, which the attorney in me was sitting there being like, be quiet, obviously that it's not my position. It's more of a quasi-judicial, but he did offer up two reasons for the employees wearing face coverings, both of which are valid to me and as far as anything that I've seen with the health department. But other than that, given the fact that if I did have any questions, there wouldn't be anybody that could answer them because nobody was there that's here to testify and the trial's already started, I'm ready to make a motion.
Okay. I would welcome that, but I would welcome, before you make a motion, if we could just see, are there any other questions by the board on these matters? On this matter for Doc Holidays? We've had a lot of discussion. It's a lot of good discussion. I think we as a board need to discuss how we go forward with these type things, but that's neither here nor there at the moment. Are there any other discussions? Any other questions? I apologize. Hearing none, Mr. Conway,
Make a
you have
move.
the floor.
Make a motion to dismiss the complaint.
Chris Bellamy, a second.
I have a motion and a second to dismiss. Any discussion on the motion to dismiss? Hearing none, I'll entertain your vote on the motion to dismiss. I apologize. It's getting a little long this evening. Ms. Jarman is not with us. Mr. Bellamy,
Yay.
Mr. Conway,
Yay.
Mr. Perlin,
Yay.
Ms. Spalding,
Yay.
Ms. Fox.
Yay.
I have 5 votes to dismiss, none against. The motion to dismiss passes. The citation is dismissed. Mr. Hobbs, thank you for being here this evening. Mr. Atkins, thank you for being here this evening. I want to specifically say thank you for all the time that you spend with us at these beer board meetings, at least once a month. They have been lengthy of late, and I know you have your other day job as well, and your input and your assistance is greatly appreciated. So again, we appreciate you being here. And Mr. Hobbs, I know you're muted, but thank you as well.
I appreciate everything y'all are doing, and I really do. It's been a good partnership. Thank you.
Very well. Thanks. So that, folks, is the agenda that I control this evening. But to what I just said, Director, I would welcome an opportunity that we as a board have, if nothing else, I don't know if you call it a special called meeting or just some time set aside so that we can discuss with the inspectors. Perhaps Mr. Atkins, it could be a part of that. Promise we won't keep you for 2.5 hours, Mr. Atkins. I really do. If we do, we'll just let you go without question. But I think we as a board need to discuss kind of how we address these things going forward, because we'll agree to disagree that we set a precedent. The precedent that you're referring to is when we first started dealing with these, we'd never dealt with them before. We've since seen a lot of these, and I don't necessarily always agree with how they're processed. I agree they need to be processed because we are a year in, and we certainly need folks to comply with the order that's out there. It's tough. And again, we're put in this position. Unfortunately, we have to react to this. We can't just ignore it. With that, Director, I will turn it over to you. Thanks for letting me jump on my soapbox as I do occasionally from time to time.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate the opportunity to address those questions. And I want the board to know that, we're out here. We base the recommendations that we make on the fact that, whether people agree with it or not, is that the precedent that was set when the virus really started hitting and we started to enforce the mask orders. And so based upon our advice from Metro Legal, we have to make those recommendations based on that. And then the board itself can either follow those or change it based upon the facts that come out. But if we make a recommendation that's different than what we had during the first hearings that took place, then we run the risk of putting our previous cases in jeopardy. So I just want to make the board aware of that I'm not trying to have a battle here with the board about what the recommendation is and what the prior precedent is. The fact is that that's what the board said at the beginning. And so we have to, as our recommendations go, we have to follow that. And so we're following that prior precedent as far as setting the recommendations, but the board can change that when they hear the facts that come up. If that particular permit holder decides to have a formal hearing. And also, I just want to say that the board itself, the staff is somewhat limited in, taking part in a lot of these investigations or these citations that go out. We have 2 inspectors that are inspectors full-time, and then we have Inspector Brown who works part-time, and they work hundreds of hours or have worked hundreds of hours in overtime trying to assist with the mask enforcement. And so, we weren't there at the time, during particular we were there at some of them and we weren't there at others. And so in some cases, we do operate off of the report that comes out. But moving forward, we can subpoena the individual who wrote the report if the board would prefer us to do that. And that way, any questions that come up can be asked specifically to that individual as well as Mr. Atkins or any of our inspectors that were present. But moving on, unless you all have any questions, I'll be brief with my report, as my daughters need their bedroom back to go to bed.
Right.
So,
Mr. Director, I will add, I can't tell you how much we appreciate what you guys do. We know, again, as has been stated, we're in a situation where we're dealing with something that we've never had to deal with. Ideally, hopefully, we'll never have to deal with it again.
Right.
We certainly appreciate the work you guys are doing. You know, I, for one, have been a huge proponent and a fan of what you guys are doing. I just think it would be a good idea if we had just a board discussion. Obviously, it's open discussion, and we are a public board. Because you're right, I'll never disagree with the fact that if we have set a precedent, we need to be consistent, because that jeopardizes any decision we may make beyond that, or would have made or made prior to that. But should we decide to take different measures or different actions to address some of these situations, I think we're in a safer zone than if we just change course without discussion or disclosing why we're seeing it differently perhaps today versus what we did 9 months ago. That's all I'm saying. Certainly don't mean, and I hope it's not, I don't think it is, because we've had enough discussions to undermine what you guys are doing. I hope nobody takes it like that. Anyway, thank you for what you guys are doing.
we certainly appreciate that, and I know that the board itself is in a tough situation having to make these decisions. So I appreciate everything that you guys do and all the support that you've given us, especially during the pandemic. So it's much appreciated.
All right.
But I sent out the executive director's report last night, and just wanted to update everyone. And as I said during the last meeting, we have already surpassed our expectations for this year, and we're sitting at $603,574 that we've collected. That's actually the first time that we've surpassed $600,000 in our revenue for the year, and we still have another quarter left to go in the year. And we actually, it seems like things are getting back to normal as far as the applications go. And sorry, I had to let my dog out. And so so far this month, we've actually brought in about $11,500 in application fees, which is the best month that we've had to date. But things are going very well, and I'm pleased with the revenue that we've brought in for the year to date. So I'm happy to, just a second, okay. So I'm happy to answer any questions that you guys may have.
Any questions by the board members for Benton or his special guest?
Can you say hi?
All right. Director, does that conclude your commentary?
It does.
Very well.
I'll return my
comments? Any other comments from the board? Folks, thanks again for a lengthy evening. We are in interesting times, and we're still going to be there for a minute. Appreciate everyone's time sticking in, staying at attention for the last 2.5 hours. Without objection to adjournment this evening, I have 7:57. Folks, we stand adjourned. Thanks so much. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Night.
Thank you. Appreciate it.